The first talk, the LEAG Community Support for Lunar Resource Evaluation and Utilization, which is going to be given by Dr. Samuel Lawrence. So Sam, take it away. I will drive your slides.
Great, thank you, Clive. I'm happy to be here. Comcheck, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So thanks. I'm delighted to be here this morning. I'm presenting on behalf of LEAG. Current LEAG chair, Dr. Fagan, couldn't make it at this exact time today, so I'm happy to fill in for her. I'm here to discuss and summarize the almost 20 years of policy and programmatic evaluations LEAG has done in support of lunar resource exploration, utilization, and prospecting. Next slide, please, Clive. Okay. So we have a rich 5-decade legacy recognizing that the use of lunar resources is an essential aspect of a credible plan to facilitate the continuous and sustainable human exploration of the solar system. I think I'm just going to briefly touch on 4 of the most recent documents. The first and most important is the National Space Policy of the United States, which clearly and explicitly calls for establishing a cislunar economy, establishing a permanent lunar surface presence, and the vigorous use of space resources to facilitate not only a cislunar economy, but increase the capability of lunar surface activities and enable a vigorous program to get humans to other destinations beyond, such as Ceres. So the Global Exploration Roadmap, which was developed by the ISIG, clearly calls out the fact that astronauts, a key goal for astronaut activities on the lunar surface is to assess resource potential, calls for the use of resources for sustainable exploration, and calls for increasing and developing viable public-private partnerships as well as international collaborations to utilize space resources effectively. And finally, the most important LEAG document is, of course, the United States Lunar Exploration Roadmap, which is a community-derived and living document. I'll hit that later in this presentation, but we also have a number of specific action team reports. Next slide, please, Clive. Okay, so let's run down very quickly some of the more recent special action teams, which were tasked with examining resources as science and exploration priorities. The first was the first lunar volatile set in 2014, and that had several key findings. The most important one was that we needed orbital and landed measurements and observations to really understand the resource potential of the lunar poles. And define various parameters for regions of interest. This was wildly successful and proved to be a very key document, and then was updated in 2017 at the request of ISIG. We got all the different agencies together, representing just all the major spacefaring nations, and produced a very interesting report that everyone should take a look at. But one of the key findings was that the international partners should coordinate volatile characterization, data sharing, international cooperation, and really highlighted the need for sample return and analysis. Next slide, please. Okay, then this was followed up right after Space Policy Directive 1 was signed, right before Space Policy Directive 1 was signed, by the Next Steps on the Moon Special Action Team, which was supposed to address the near-term missions that were needed to understand lunar science questions. And some of the key findings of the SAT were, very prescient. One of the lunar science is solar system science. This was clearly reiterated by the recent decadal surveys. And that evaluation of the moon's resource potential will influence our understanding of the broader solar system. And that efficient assessment of resource potential really needs mobility to traverse diverse geologic terrains. This is followed up with the volatile viability measurement set, which called out near-term measurements to understand commercial viability of polar resources, and really called out we needed a sustainable campaign of ISRU measurements. Next slide, please. Okay, so the Lunar Exploration Roadmap presents a cohesive plan for using the moon and its resources to explore cislunar space and other solar system locations. It has 3 themes: science, to answer fundamental questions about the universe; feed forward, to prepare for exploration of other destinations; and sustainability, to enable an extended permanent presence on the lunar surface. and has time phasing and science priority associated with it. So that makes it a very unique and useful document. Next slide, please. So if you really dive down deep into the Lunar Exploration Roadmap, you'll discover that the use of lunar resources permeates the entire strategy. So it follows a path of prospect for resources, demonstrate the use of resources, and then produce resources for local and cislunar space use cases. 42% of the roadmap objectives are directly relevant to either resource prospecting and or actual resource utilization. They stretch across all the time phases from robotics only to humans to full-on lunar base. And many of the highest priority investigations in the LER are related to lunar resources. And you see this breaking, and we've broken this down here by theme. So 36% of the science themes, 39% of the feed-forward themes, and 55% of the sustainability themes are really tied to space resource utilization and prospecting. So it really is a foundation for this. So in conclusion, lunar resources are absolutely unequivocally essential to facilitating a continuous and sustainable human exploration of our solar system. The need for lunar resources has been clearly demonstrated in numerous reports stretching back over 5 decades, and most recently including the National Space Policy, the Global Exploration Roadmap, a steady stream of LEAG Special Action Team reports, and the Lunar Exploration Roadmap. Understanding the distribution and form of resources and the technology needs for ISRU and resource production are critical for furthering lunar and solar system exploration goals, and this has been outlined in numerous reports, both from LEAG and other organizations such as the NRC. The Decadal Survey highlights this. The Artemis Plan, a NASA Artemis Plan highlights this. The Artemis 3 Science Definition Team Report, the definitive statement of priorities for the first crewed mission, states this very clearly. The Artemis Accords are based on it. And the NASA's recently promulgated Moon to Mars objectives hit this theme pretty hard as well. Somewhat uniquely, LEAG has to cover a large tent, which includes not only the science community, but also the commercial and exploration communities as well. And resource exploration and utilization is an absolutely essential part of lunar exploration, and LEAG will continue to support and facilitate the use of lunar resources per national space policy. So that's my summary for today. I appreciate the chance to present this abbreviated summary this morning to set off this workshop. I very much look forward to seeing what this community and this workshop specifically has to say to try to push this cause forward.
Well, thank you very much, Sam.